Hello guys, welcome to another video. Like always, this story has belong to me and the link to the original post will be in the description. That being said, let's get into the video. Son of the Sannin, Chapter 3 and Part 3. When a toad loves his luck, or Oi prophecies are always so damn cryptic. 2 years after the QV attack, if an outsider traveled to Konoha, he or she wouldn't be able to tell of the catastrophe that hit the village 2 years ago caused so much property damage and took away many lives. The reconstruction effect were already over. Most people had already stopped remembering their lost ones, mourning their lost ones, and continued with their lives. Unfortunately, that didn't mean that the QV's inhabitants were all accepting of little Naruto. People would often scatter whenever one of his three caretakers would take him on a walk through the village, often between members. While nobody was stupid enough to reach the wrath of the Sannin by speaking their opinion of the blonde toddler out loud, they would be forced to show sympathy to him either. They wouldn't be forced to show sympathy to him either, while the Toadses and the Slug Princess were outraged upon learning through Shizune that they were seen as Naruto's jailers rather than his foster parents. They had to admit it wasn't something logical or stupid to think. Both sons spent many of their rather late nights drinking sessions discussing way on how to make the population stop fearing Naruto. Speaking of Naruto, taking care of him became an even harder task once the little Yuriki learned how to walk. Despite his short, chubby legs, the kid was insanely fast, always running from one room to another, never taking a moment to stop. They tried to keep him at bay with a baby fence, but he somehow ended up escaping. The only way to make him stay still for a prolonged time was for somebody to play with him, and said people would end up utterly exhausted after an hour or so. Despite this, there was always somebody willing to play with Naruto. The kid had a talent to brighten the mood of anybody who spent more than a few minutes with him, and the fewer times in which the three adults were parents at the same time were always the most fun and pleasant. The only ones in which Naruto would the only ones in which Naruto would be in the on to fall asleep first. And today was going to be one of those days. After ending her shift at the hospital, Tsunade headed home with a smile on her lips. Shizune had recently returned from a mission outside the village, and Jiraiya wasn't scheduled to meet one of his spies until tomorrow. The whole family would be together. She then stopped in her tracks after realizing the implications of what she was thinking. Wait, am I actually happy to think that Jiraiya will be at home waiting for me? And am I thinking of him as family? During the time they lived together, the two sons not only managed to repair their broken relationship, but they became even closer than when they were teammates. The night they spent drinking and talking about their issues not only was a good way to spend some steam, but to get better acquainted with one another. She was starting to grow fond of the white-haired pervert. Hell, he had been good on his word and hardly did anything perverted anymore, at least in her presence. But that didn't mean that she was developing feeling for Joraya, right? Tsunade pushed her thoughts aside the moment her house came into view. It was time for a fun afternoon with Naruto. Hey everybody, I'm home, Tsunade said as she entered the house and walked into the living room. Oh good, We were waiting for you, said Jiraiya's voice. Tsunade was surprised to see that Jiraiya wasn't with Shizune and Naruto, as she had expected. The young Konoichi and the blonde boy were playing with some toys at the other side of the living room. Jiraiya, meanwhile, was alongside two small toads wearing black cloaks. One was green, had grey, bushy eyebrows, and a gato on of the same color, while the other was a greenish yellow, had a bulbous purple head and thick purple lips. A thick purple leaf. I believe you already know Fukasaku and Shima, the two great sage toads, Jiraiya said as he mentioned to the toads. It's good to see you again after so many years, Tsunade-chan, Fukasaku said. You turned into a quite a lovely lady, don't you turned into a quite lovely lady, didn't you? Shima added, Fukasaku-sama. Shima-sama, it's an honor to meet you again, Tsunade said solemnly as she bowed her head. May I ask what is the reason for your visit? The great toad sage had requested to see both you and Jiraiya-chan. Now that you finally came, we must head to Mount Miyabuku immediately. Shima answered, we will travel there by reverse summoning. Fukasaku added, wait a minute, I don't have a toad summoning contract. How are you going to bring me there? The Slack Sannin asked, don't worry, we have a solution for that. Please give me your hand. Fukasaku said. Tsunade walked towards the old toad and did as she was told. Fukasaku placed his hand on Tsunade's hand, closed his eyes, and focused his chakra, sage art, seal of the toad. Fukasaku said as his hand glowed blue. Tsunade felt something tingling the palm of her hand. When the toad's jutsu was over, the kanji of oil which represented Mount Miyabuku and was the kanji on Jiraiya's forehead protector was engulfed on her hand. That's a special seal that will allow you to reverse summon by toads as well as summon any toads you want. It will only last one day before it fades, but for our current endeavor it will be more than enough, Kasaku explained. Okay, we are ready to go, Shima said as she and her husband started the reverse summoning process. In less than a second, Jiraiya and Tsunade were no longer inside their house's living room and found themselves in the middle of Mount Miyabuku. While Jiraiya had been there quite a few times, Tsunade spent more minutes exploring the immediate surrounding, marveling at the nature beauty of the toad's home. The place was filled with gigantic plants and mushrooms, beautiful flowers that she had never seen before, nor knew they existed. Multiple rivers and streams flowed through the mountain. There were also many statues of toads scattered around the place. Yet, for some reason, Tsunade found the place oddly familiar. The slug Sannin and then realized what was Jiraiya inspiring to decorate it. The slug Sannin then realized what Jiraiya's inspiration to decorate Naruto's bedroom. So, what do you think of our home, Tsunade-chan? Shima asked. It's amazing. The natural energy from this place is simply overwhelming. There is so much life. Would you say it's better than Shikotsu Woods? Ma, don't ask her such a thing. Don't you see you're putting her in a predicament? Fukasaku said angrily. Oh, can it, Pa? It's not that. We invited a non-toad summoner to our to our place that often. It's not that we invite a non-toad summoner to our place that often, and I just wanted to compare. Better or worse ain't words that I would use to compare both places. Guess that the would be different word would be different. Tsunade said, hoping that her answer wouldn't upset the toads. However, she wasn't going to badmouth the slugs behind their backs just to appease their current host, appease their current host. So you said that the great toad sage uh, so you said that the great toad sage wanted to see us, Joraya said, trying to get back to their current business. Oh yes, you're right. Come on, let's not make Gamamaru-sama wait any longer. Fukasaku said as he led the way. Like that senile old geezer wouldn't forget that he wanted to speak with the kids in the first place. Shima scoffed like that senile old geezer wouldn't forget that he wanted to speak with the kids in the first place, Shima scoffed while they headed to see the spiritual leader of the Toads. Fukasaku thought it was a good chance to bring up certain topics regarding their only summoner. He hopped onto he hopped onto the white-haired man's shoulder. Jiraiya-chan, since you are here again, have you thought that it might be a good chance to complete your senjutsu training? Maybe another time. Jiraiya replied uneasily. I am kind of busy right now. Always with that excuse. Hey, I am taking care of a baby right now, so cut me some slack. Why are you taking care of a baby during the past 10 years as well? I don't need it. I already mastered Senjutsu. Fukasaku scoffed in return. Then you and I have a very different idea of mastering Senjutsu means. You need both Ma and I to enter and maintain sage mode. Plus, your control of natural chakra has plenty of room for improvement. Listen, I will finish my training, okay? Just not now. I need to focus on Naruto first and foremost. Listen, I understand Jiraiya-chan, but try not to delay it for much longer. The difference between incomplete and complete sage mode could mean the difference between life and death. After a short trip, the two small toads and the two Sannin were in front of Gamamaru, the great toad sage, who was sitting on a shallow pool. Tsunade eyed at the large red toad in front of her, judging by the amount of wrinkles, withers, and near-closed eyes. It was obvious that Gamamaru was very old. Some said that he was so old he even had met and advised the sage of six paths himself, though they were mostly rumors. Gamamaru-sama, Jiraiya-chan, and Tsunade-chan are here, just like you requested, Fukasaku announced. Honorable Sage, both Sannin said at the same time as they bowed before him. Ah, I see. Good. There is much we need to talk, Gamamaru said, each word coming out of his mouth at a rather slow pace. Jiraiya and Tsunade waited expectantly about what what the Gamamaru wanted to tell them. They waited for a minute, but the old large toad didn't say anything. Gamamaru-sama, Fukasaku said, zi. Jiraiya and Tsunade's sweat dropped. Wake up, you old geezer! Shima screeched, startling Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Fukasaku, but apparently waking up Gamamaru. It's lunchtime already? Gamamaru asked, disoriented as he slowly looked around. Gamamaru-sama, you wanted to talk with Jiraiya-chan and Tsunade-chan, remember? Fukasaku said once again, hoping to get everything back on track. Ah, yes, listen up, you young ones, because there is a troubled future ahead. Both of both for travel future ahead, both for you, and the little tadpole under your care. The Gamamaru said. Tsunade's worry spiked upon hearing those words. I don't care what happens to me. Is something bad going to happen to Naruto? Young Naruto will have a hard road ahead of him. He will go, he will do great things and will meet terrible enemies. You will need to protect him from said enemies as long as he can take care of himself. We will get Sage. Jiraiya started with determination. Tsunade nodded as well. I see. Konoha on fire. I have seen Konoha on fire, divided against itself. Friends will turn into enemies, sons will fight their fathers, and behind the fire a one-eyed demon. Be awakened of him. Be aware of him. Said demon will go after Naruto. You must protect him at all cost. I have nothing more to say. Return now to your homes and maintain on my meditate on my words. Kamaru said before falling asleep once again. Jiraiya and Tsunade looked at each other as their brains processed Gamamaru's omnipotent predictions and what they could do to make sure everything was alright. Wow, that's getting interesting. Anyways, let's get into it again. Half an hour later, Jiraiya and Tsunade were sent back to their home. Much to their surprise, they found Naruto crying his eyes out while Shizune tried to comfort him in vain. What's going on here, Naruto? Why are you crying? Jiraiya asked and frowned. Upon hearing his voice, Naruto turned his head around and looked at him. He stopped crying and his sad grin turned into the they ever saw, brightest smile they ever saw. He wiped his tears, jumped from Shizune's lap and rushed to hug them. You are back, Naruto said as he was scooped by Jiraiya. What's going on, Shizune? Tsunade asked, placing her hand on her hips. He saw you disappear in a cloud of smoke and thought that you were gone for good. I have been trying to explain him that you would be back soon, but he didn't believe me. The young Konoichi replied, Oh, my poor kid, of course he thought that we left without even telling him goodbye. Tsunade said as he took Naruto from Jiraiya's arms. Forgive me, sweetheart. I promise we will never do that again, okay? Okay. Naruto said, whimpering with his wrapping his little arms around Tsunade's neck. Alright, enough of that. Who's up for our game night? Jiraiya said and everybody cheered in return. After a fun and lively game night, Shizune and Naruto went to bed. Jiraiya and Tsunade tried to, but they couldn't. Both of them couldn't stop thinking about Gamamaru's warning regarding not just Naruto but the world in general. Like usual, they were in the living room with a couple of bottles of sake, so Naruto is in danger from a one-eyed demon. Does that mean that we should be aware of any one-eyed people we ran into? Because losing eye is quite common in our line of work, Jiraiya commented as he emptied his cup of sake. My first choice would be Danzo, the leader of Root. The only people with one eye that I know in only person with one eye that I know is Kakashi. Maybe he was talking about him. Tsunade said Kakashi has two eyes, even if he only uses one most of the time. Plus, he's a nice kid. He wouldn't harm Naruto. He was Minato's student after all, and a huge fan, of your books, and a huge fan of my books. Yes, but I am not defending him because of that. He may. I know. I was just teasing you. Couldn't that old frog old frog have been a little more specific about this one-eyed demon? Some more hints would have been more useful besides lacking an eye. First, Gamamaru is a toad, not a frog. Never call frog a toad. They do not take it very good. And second, Gamamaru doesn't have the context of the vision he gets. Also, all he can do is interpret them to the best of his abilities. Well, that vision of his got me on the edge. He told us that Naruto is in danger but didn't specify about what kind of danger, and we cannot protect him from everything. It's not that we can do. It's not that we can lock him down in his room or something. Even if you did, he will find a way out. He always does. Jiraiya mentioned causing Tsunade to choke, but then again, that's nothing new. His parents, especially Minato, had a lot of enemies that would love to get revenge through Naruto, and he already has blush, yet another bluish on his blue, bullish on his back due to being the bullseye on his back due to being the Cubist Jinchuriki. Even worse than what also worried me was the part about Konoha being on fire. Do you think that somebody is planning to attack us? I wouldn't rule that out. We are still recovering from the QB attack, which made a number of our which made a number of our foes. I am hoping previous our presence are our presence here serves as a deterrent for any village who might want to invade Konoha. Presence here serves as a deterrent for any village who might want to invade Konoha, and that part about friend turning enemy. Do you think that we may be betrayed by one of our allies? For what I know, our current allied village is Suna, but even with our recent loss, they still lack the number and power to wage war against us, at least on their own. Maybe they can ally with one of our other one of they can ally with one of the other three great villages, but I find that unlikely. Even then, maybe it would be a good idea to strengthen our ties with them, pay them a visit, sake to them, mail some sake to the Kazekage, stuff like that. Sake seems to be your answer to everything because it works. I mean, remember when we returned here, we how wouldn't spend 5 minutes without yelling at each other. Actually, it was you who did most of the yelling, Jiraiya said with a chuckling grin as he poured more sake on his empty cup. Yet, when we started to have this late night drinks, everything became far smoother. Now I am even happier to see that you are home when I get back from work. If that's not enough proof of Sake's miracle crafting power, oh, 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 of course. Tsunade said in realization as a huge smile formed her on her face. What's that's how that's how we can make everybody except Naruto. He only needs to go drinking with every villager here. Whoa, wow. Even in my wo- Even in my worst wasted stage, I can still see how much that idea sucks. Tsunade's smile disappeared and was replaced by an angry frown. And why is that smart ass? Well, I might not know much about babies, but Isn't alcohol like very toxic to them? We still have to wait about 16 years until he can do that, and even then he will have to drink a lot in order to befriend the entire village. Damn it! I hadn't thought that, Tsunade said as she slammed on her chair and drank from her cup again. Oh well, I'm sure I can think something. I need I just need more inspiration. Hey, Hime, don't you think we had enough? Maybe we should go to bed. I will decide when I had enough. Now, come on, keep the sake going. I have to forget that damn I have to forget that damned prophecy from that damned frog, toad, whatever. Tsunade-sama, are you awake? Come on, you need to get up. We are going to be late for the hospital. Shizune's voice awakened the blonde Sannin. The sunlight coming through the window fell into her eyes like being stabbed with burning hot daggers, which didn't do any good to aggravate the massive hangover she was starting to notice. She could swear her head would explode at any moment. Yes, I am awake, Tsunade said in a barely audible grumble, and stop yelling so much. The Slug Princess tried to get out of bed, but she couldn't. There was something that was keeping her from moving. Further inspiration revealed that it was a rather large and definitely man-looking arm. Definitely male-looking arm. She followed the arm with her eyes, and just as she feared, said arm was attached to a man, a naked man, a man with white hair she knew very well. While asleep, there was a very wide grin on his face. Taking into account the factor that Tsunade was also naked, it didn't take a genius to realize what happened last night, even if she didn't remember it, nor she wanted to remember anyways. She wanted to scream, but her extremely dried throat could only produce a cough. Just how much did I drink last night? The blonde Sannin asked herself in horror, covering her naked body with the blanket. Tsunade tried to punch the toad sage awake. Jiraiya! 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 Tsunade said as she rocked the white-haired man, each time with more force. Jiraiya opened his eyes slowly, blinking several times until they assuredly to the current light. He ground, rubbing his head with one hand, effectively being victim of a hangover just as bad as his drinking buddy. He then looked at Tsunade, and his mouth formed from a smile. Good morning, him, Jiraiya said absently. Then slowly but surely, the more aggressively element of the situation started to sink in. Upon realization what was going on, he looked at Tsunade's barely naked form with his eyes wide open as his face turned red. Wow, what the hell? What happened? Trust me, I feel the same. We can talk about that later, and make no mistake, we will talk about it. Now get out of here before somebody sees us, Tsunade said, panicked. Right. Jiraiya blurted as he hastily started to pick his clothes from the bedroom's floor and got dressed. Tsunade proceeded to do the same. Tsunade-sama, get out of your bed already, Shizune's voice said from the other side of the door. Even back in Konoha, I am still having to be the responsible one. I am awake. I still need a few minutes to get ready. Just don't come in. And what is taking you so long? Shizune asked as she opened the door and came into the room, only to be greeted with an image of her mentor with Jiraiya half naked trying to get dressed as fast as possible. Both Sannin smiled at her sheepishly. Shizune let out an "Heep" and quickly left, slamming the door shut. It's okay. I didn't see anything. Just take all the time you need. Just take all the time you need. To say that the breakfast time that morning was awkward would be a massive understatement. They all ate their breakfast without muttering a word. Shizune fed Naruto while she actively avoided looking at the two Sannin in front of her. Tsunade, however, couldn't bear the silence anymore and opened her mouth to speak. Shizune, what, what you just saw? None of your business. None of my business, Shizune said, muttering, "Oh, faithfully, we are all adults here. Just tell me beforehand so we don't run into more uncomfortable situation," the young Konoichi said without turning her head to look at her mentor. This time, it was Jiraiya who tried to speak. "Listen, Shizune, Tsunade, Hime, and I weren't. Do you think we should talk about that in front of Naruto?" Shizune interrupted again. Both Sannin looked at the blonde toddler happily enjoying his food and ignoring the conversation that was going on in front of him. They could pretty much be talking about Minato and Kushina, and he wouldn't pay as much attention. But then again, they had to admit Shizune had a point. That wasn't something to discuss in front of a little kid. Now, if you excuse me, today I have gate duty. Shizune said once she had finished feeding Naruto and eating her own breakfast and left. I think that I will get going too. I don't want to keep my con- uh, contract waiting contact waiting. Hopefully, I will get some more hints on the QB attack. Jiraiya said, clearly dying to get out of the house. Will you take care of Naruto? Yeah, I will leave him in the hospital's daycare. Tsunade replied, so see you later. Alright then, goodbye. Shizune was hoping that if she focused on work, maybe she will remove the image of Tsunade and Jiraiya naked sharing the same bed, but gate duty was so boring and uneventful that she couldn't distract her mind with something else. Over the 2 years that Tsunade and her had been living under the same roof as Jiraiya, Shizune had noticed that their relationship became smoother by little. During the first few weeks, they used to argue a lot and try to avoid each other as much as possible. If Jiraiya was in the living room, Tsunade wouldn't go there until the Totses left first. If Tsunade and her were having dinner in the dining room, Jiraiya would wait until they were finished before he would have dinner himself. The only time the two of them were together was when they spent time with Naruto. Then the arguments became less and less frequent until they disappeared completely. Tsunade and Jiraiya were able to keep civilized conversation were able to have a civilized conversation and seem to tolerate each other enough so they stopped avoiding each other, as if they were finally getting used to each other's constant presence and even enjoying it. One day that the medic ninja appreciate couldn't apprenticed one day that the medic ninja apprentice couldn't sleep. She heard voice coming from the living room, which she instantly recognized as the two Sannin. She then learned that whenever the two of them couldn't sleep, they would get up, have a drink, and talk. Then this became a tradition, with both of them staying awake until late in the night, regardless if they were suffering from insomnia or not. drinking and talking with each other. But even with how much their relationship improved, Shizune could never guessed in a million years that they would end up sleeping together. After her uncle Dan had died, Shizune never saw her master showing the barest of interest in the opposite gender again. Due to her beauty and genuous pair of assets, Tsunade attracted many men, which she ended up rebuffing sometimes without even looking at them first. Those who talked her rejection, those who took her rejection badly ended up in the hospital. All right, your papers seem to be in order. I hope you enjoy your stay at Konoha, Shizune said to a merchant who had just crossed the gate. She then returned to her internal track of thoughts. Shizune had embarrassed feeling towards this morning's shocking development. On side, she wanted to shake that image of her mind. Tsunade was the closest thing she had to a mother, and nobody wanted to think about their parents having nighttime cuddling. But on the other hand, she was feeling happy that apparently somebody was able to tear down the emotional barrier the blonde Sannin erupted around her heart for years. She deserved to be happy. Excuse me, a voice said that snapped Shizune out of her trance. She blinked and saw a Konoha Jonin looking at her. He had dark brown hair tied in a ponytail and a gate. Oh, sorry. What can I do for you? Shizune asked the Jonin. My name is Yuki Minazuki. Yuki Minazuki, Jonin Sensei of Team 2. My team is about to it take its first mission outside of village. The Jonin explained. Alright. Shizune said as she wrote down everything Yuki said. I need the name of your Kenin, please. Sure. They are Shinoko Inari, Timani Izumo, and Itachi Uchiha. Shizune was taken back when she heard the last name. She then looked at the genin that were waiting a few meters behind their senses. She saw a boy that was about 10 or 12 years old with gray spiky hair, wearing a dull blue shirt and black pants. Beside her was a girl of a similar age with the same hair color, styled in two pigtails that covered upwards, that curved upwards, and was wearing a maroon t-shirt that exposed her belly, dark blue shorts, and a cap on her head. And last was another kid, much younger than the other two, whom Shizune identified as the kid she first met on the grocery store a year ago and saw a few more times whenever she went on a walk. Itachi-kun, is that you? Shizune asked. Oh, hi Shizune-san, Itachi said as he waved at her. Are you a Kenin already? Shizune asked, her eyes wide open. Itachi just nodded. But how old are you? 7.5. But you are so young. Well, Itachi is quite talented, Yuki spoke up. I was quite surprised when they told me he was the rookie of the year of his promotion. Shizune was left speechless, not only this kid graduated 5 years before the average Kenin, but doing so as the best of his class was something beyond amazing. Granted, she knew that both Tsunade and Jiraiya had graduated the academy when they were just 6, but she never expected to meet another prodigy of the same caliber. We are going on our first C rank mission. It isn't great. Itachi said, isn't it great? Isn't it great? Itachi said, beaming. No, now, if everything is in order, I would like to continue with our mission, please. Yuki said, oh, yes, of course. Good luck out there. You will tell me how it went when you get back, Itachi-kun. Shizune said as she waved at Itachi and his team. Thank you, Shizune-san. And yeah, I will, Itachi said, waving back. Guess that they weren't explanation when ex, 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 excited when they talked about the powers of the Uchiha. Wonder if under the tutelage of Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama, Naruto-kun will be able to become a genin that soon. Tutelage of Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama, Naruto will be able to become a genin that soon. Shizune muttered to herself. Nightfall over Konoha once again. While Shizune and Naruto were asleep once again, Jiraiya and Tsunade were having their usual late-night drinking session. Except there were two key differences. The first one was that they were sitting at the opposite ends of the living room table's couch in an awkward attempt to put put as much space between each other as possible, and second, there was no sake despite both Sannin undying adoration of the burning beam. They weren't going to take any chances of what happened the previous night. Jiraiya cleared his throat. So, how was your day, him? Good. Today came a pregnant woman who gave birth to triplets. Tsunade answered without looking at him. Oh, triplets. You don't see that every day, Jiraiya said. And how's your hemophony, hemophobia, hemophobia going? Hemophobia going good too. Therapy is working fine. I'm making some progress, even if it's at a slow pace. My therapist says I will be able to perform surgeries again in 2 years. Again in 2 years. That's something great to hear. And what about you? How was your meeting with that spy? Good, I guess. He shared with me some information about the new mercenary group that seemed to be interested in the tailed beast. I will have to investigate that in further. It's good to know that we are getting closer to. Oh, screw this! Tsunade shouted, throwing her hands in the air. Fortunately, she didn't wake up the two youths sleeping upstairs. It isn't something. Is it something I said? No, it's this. I mean, we are in our 40s, and here we are acting like a couple of emotional distressed teenagers having some small talk in a pathetic atmosphere that ignored what we did last night. At an at a pathetic attempt to ignore what we did last night. You wanna talk about it? Like hell I do. But before we talk, like hell I do. But before we do, Tsunade said as she walked towards the drinks cabinet and grabbed 2 cups and a few sake bottles. Let's have a drink. Tsunade poured the sake on the 2 cups and both Sunny drank them in one go. So, do you feel better? Tsunade asked. Yeah, I guess. But I could do with another cup, Jiraiya said. Tsunade ogled and poured him more sake. Alright, Jiraiya, now I want you to answer me this honestly, no lies. Do you still like me? Jiraiya sighed as he gulped down the second cup of sake. Tsunade would expect a yes/no answer, but not even the thought sage knew the extent of his feeling towards his former teammate. I I don't know, I guess. You guess? Come on, Jiraiya, try a bit harder. Take another drink if you need it. I know. I used to like you, and I tried to get over my feelings for you since I knew we weren't meant to be together, and I thought that I moved on. Then, apparently, Then plenty of shit happened, and suddenly I am raising a kid with you. I thought that taking care of Naruto would be like doing a mission, but seeing you every day, our late night drinking, being Naruto's parents, I think they rekindle those feelings. I see. What about you, Tsunade? Did you find yourself attracted to me all of a sudden? Because I know that there's no man on this earth who can trick you, much less force you to share a bed with him. I am not sure, but guess that I have an but guess that I would be an hypocrite if I didn't give a specific answer after I forced you to give on. I don't know when it happened, but suddenly I started to grow more fond of you. With each passing day, I didn't know if it was just fondness or if it was something more. To be honest, I have been an emotional mess since I left Konoha. Jiraiya chuckled. Heh, I can relate to that. Jiraiya, the rule I established when we start living together. What about them? Did I break any? No. And that's what surprised me the most. You didn't do anything of any of your research or any other perverted stuff I was expecting you to do. Why are you hoping to win some points with me by sticking to my rules? No. Listen, Tsunade, what happened yesterday surprised me as well as much as it did surprise you. Then why did you decided to follow those rules then? I might not have been trying to woo you anymore, but I never stopped caring about you. I know I am not the easiest person to live with. That's why I had been trying to suppress my least admirable traits in order to give you an easier time. You deserved as much as that. I, well, thank you for that. I know I hadn't been the easiest housemate either. Looking back, I was a total bitch to you when we first moved here. You know, you could have set some rules for me as well. It's okay. I didn't find it necessary really. Wasn't there anything I did but you wanted for me to stop? A couple of things, but minor enough not to warrant something like a rule. Plus, those offers aren't hard to ignore when the offer offender is so easy to the eye. Plus, those offenses are not hard to ignore when the offender is so easy on the eye, Jiraiya said with a wide grin as he shot Tsunade a devious look. Tsunade scowled and punched him in the shoulder. See, that's what I was talking about. You are doing so good and you had to ruin it. Come on, you wouldn't like me if I changed everything about me, right? I like you better when you are not a pervert. You admired me to be like a, you admitted to like me at least. Eh, you admitted to like me at least. Tsunade opened her eyes wide, started. I did. After a few seconds of silence, she let a small smile to form on her face. I guess I did. There's no point in denying it. So, what do you do now? Do we go on a date or something? Actually, let's take this slow, okay? I might have admitted that I have some feeling for you, but still need to put my thoughts in order before we can take anything. We can take this any further. It's okay. I have been dreaming of this moment for decades. I can wait a little more. Good to know. As for now, we might not go on a date, but there's a couple bottle of sakes that have on a have on a date with our livers. Have a date with our livers. Tsunade said as she poured more sake on her and Jiraiya's cup. They spent the rest of the night carelessly chatting while drinking, remembering what they usually did during their previous night. Resembling what they did during the previous night. Shizune woke up next morning as usual. After getting dressed, she walked towards Tsunade's room. Tsunade-sama, are you awake? It's time to get ready, Shizune said after knocking the door. But there was no answer. She knocked the door again. Tsunade-sama? Fearing the worst, the young Chunin opened the door slowly, and after working up some courage, she dared to peek inside. But much to her surprise, the room was empty and the bed was made. Weird, Tsunade never wakes up early than her. Oh well, guess that there's a first time for everything. Shizune said as she went downstairs. However, upon reaching the living room, she saw something way worse than imagined of the previous morning, which also made her realize why the bed was made. Tsunade didn't sleep in her bed at all. Oh dear Kami! Shizune shouted in horror as she rushed back upstairs. That's the only couch we have! Oh wow! Nice. So they did it again. On the couch this time. Good. Good for them. But yeah, that's all for this video. If you want to be notified for future parts and other fanfiction reading, then the best way is by subscribing. And yeah, if you have Discord, please add me. Alright, yeah, that's all for this video. I have to see in the next one. Bye bye.